Cuts suck. There's no way around it. But your Chiefs got themselves a monster that we talked about all preseason, all draft season. We're going to talk about him tonight because your 53 man has been tweaked just a touch. You have a practice squad in Kansas City. We're here to tell you all about it. Welcome. This is RGR Football. He's Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy. This is us. We appreciate you guys being here. If you want to get on the action, go over to DraftKings right now. Sign up with the code RGR, and you're going to dig it because it's all getting going right about now. We'll tell you more about it here coming up on the weekend. We have a lot to get to because there's been a ton of moves again.
Yeah.
And I know everybody's got stuff on their mind, and really, there's only one guy. I was a little bit frustrated because we talked about some guys that could have been on the roster bubble, right?
Yeah.
In Reese Taylor and Khalef Hailassie and Echo Boyedo, 3 corners that if the Chiefs continue their trend are the young corners that could be on the future, right?
Exactly. Like that was the point, right? I thought and Hailassie made a strong case to make the roster. I thought he really did. And with Nick Jones' injury, I know he's not on IR or anything like that, or surgery or anything, but if you can give him time to rest, give him time to rest. Like, figure it out. I don't know. But at the end of the day, both of those guys, again, who played well, and the Chiefs continue to find some diamonds in the rough and UDFA guys and things like that. So at least that's something to look at, is that they're continuously finding guys that fit their system. So they've really, really have nailed in something there. And then they just went ahead and got one of the yes, it says monster cornerback on the thing. It's because he's kind of a freak. He's a big dude.
Yeah.
Like it's not so much that he's going to be like a guaranteed guy in the NFL. It's because he's big, he's long, he's fast. That's exactly what the Chiefs want.
What an idea. I think that's probably goes into their plan all along. And if you don't know who he is, you didn't get a chance to see him a whole lot in the preseason. And I'm a little bit stubborn about that. He wore number 30 in Indianapolis. Our friend Chris Ballard, and Chris is, good Lord, Chris has got enough problems of his own going on tonight. But Chris had to make a decision. I don't envy him for it. There isn't much else that you can say in that. It just had to get done. Yeah. He didn't get to play preseason game number 3. Didn't play a ton. I think it was 11 snaps in preseason game number 2. And he did get beat over the top. But I do want to show you guys. So this is what your new cornerback, who's technically on the practice squad for right now, can actually do. We're going to set that up and run with it quite literally. You can deject the quarterback. That's always a nice plus as well. But bottom line is, get your hands on the ball, take it to the house whenever humanly possible. It's just something that so I want to point that out too, because it's not just a walk in the park, right? So we had some questions on Twitter. Dan, you did some of the film. I did some of the film. EJ did some of the film. Shout out to EJ, our guy in the offseason. I think we all came away with the same feeling about him. What was your summary for Darius Rush in the draft process?
Yeah, so Rush was, for me, like you watch him, he's like a more athletic Charvarius Ward in the sense that his best skill set is to play physical man coverage. He can turn and run. If you're asking him to cover guys across the middle of the field, you're probably going to find yourselves in a bad situation. But the Chiefs don't ask their corners to do that very much. So it's exactly why they claimed him, because he has the necessary and the requisite skill set that fits, and the ceiling for him for the athletic ability is very high. Yeah, I think I had him about a 4th or a 5th round draft grade in terms, after watching him at the Senior Bowl, a guy who was able to flip his hips, run with some of the talent that was at the Senior Bowl, and that was impressive. These guys were very, very good prospects and were able to create separation. You look at a guy like Jaden Reed, who is going to be starting for the Green Bay Packers this year. He was getting open over a lot of guys, and Darius Rush was able to shut some of these guys down too. So it was nice to see that competitive spirit. Maybe just being in a more functional defense will help him out, because he is on the active roster as of today. They released Matt Dickerson to make room for this move earlier today, and that's going to put him right there as cornerback 6.
And that's the big thing right there. And I'm just going to blow this up a little bit so it's a little bit more easy for everybody to read. If you're listening to this on the audio podcast, folks, come back to the YouTube channel, the home of it all. Make sure you're subbed and you hit that bell. But what this says, and this was our breakdown, our summary of all 3 of our evaluations in that sizable, speedy, and athletic man corner specifically.
Yeah.
Can play some zone. He can certainly play off, but he's a man guy. This is going back a little bit towards the classic Spags kind of guy. He's long, he's tall, and he's got the ability to play man. That's what you're looking for. That's why we both liked him. The cool thing about what you see here, and for those of you who don't know or haven't subscribed yet, or if you're new to RGR, not only should you get sub, but you should check out NFL 33 as well as roguepc.com, because this is our draft guide. And this is where we put all of our prospects. He came out overall. Let me get ourselves off of the screen so y'all can see it.
Yeah.
He came out as the number 12 in this class. And that evaluation is a lot of it. His best grade was his film, meaning that displays the instincts that you're looking for. He has the turn and run capabilities to start, we feel, on the outside. Didn't see him on the inside much. Don't want to put him in the inside. No. He's not a nickel. He's not taking Nick Jones's place, so we're not there. But it's funny because despite all that and the long speed, I'm going to show you guys all the matrix here in a minute. But, Dan, part of your evaluation was specifically his mirror ability and the fact that he can turn, and that short area quickness is there. That's what the Chiefs are looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not looking necessarily for a guy who's always going to be able to read what's happening right now, especially for who's going to be the sixth cornerback. They're looking for a developmental piece. That's what they were doing with Josh Williams. That's what they were doing with Jalen Watson. And when you got them into the room, you got them into training camp and being coached by this team, they understood how to use their strengths at their best. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out in Indy. And I'm hopeful that it works out here in Kansas City because, again, he is exactly what Spags wants in a corner. Big, long, fast. Turn and run, boom. That's what it is.
And I'm sorry I misspoke before, folks. Yes, he did have to go to the 53 initially because of the waiver wire claim. Matt Dickerson did go. Matt Dickerson also, according to the Chiefs website, got signed back to the practice squad the same day. That's a little bit of a rarity. We'll hunt all those minutiae down, but you're absolutely right. On to the actual 53. Maybe that changes and you do the practice squad thing later. I doubt it, given that you had to claim him. But a couple more aspects of his game that we need to go over. The minuses is that stop me if this sounds familiar. Needs to be more effective in his press technique. In particular, landing his hands was what stood out to me, and needs to be better in his tackling discipline. Sounds just like Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson and L'Jarius Sneed before him, right?
A little bit. I think Williams is the better tackler, and he's shown to be a better tackler. Like by far, almost like Charvarius Ward sense of tackling right now. But definitely, he's more of a shoot him if you got him kind of. I'm there. I'm going to throw my hands. I might miss. My hands will probably slide off the shoulder pads. But that's kind of part of the problem. Why he was beat more than a few times during the season was because he would hit and then he would go. You would get beat by. And he was, Cam Smith he was the teammates of Cam Smith. When you watch these guys play, it was like, oh, I understand why they both got drafted. They're good players. They just kind of have that athletic ability and that natural sense I saw. And getting his head around was another area like he's going to have to work on. Got to find that football. Does that sound familiar to you guys? They love themselves some corners that are big, long, fast, and can't find the ball.
Challenged, we're calling that. Challenged. We're going to get there. Before I go any farther, folks, make sure you become one of us. Hit that sub button and get on the channel. Hit the bell so you know when we do something crazy and live like tonight. Not our normal live night. Those are Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Friday, something like that. That's when you can find us, but, close enough. If you want some of the gear, you want to support RGR, get it in here. Get Dan's, get the MVP logo. You can get it all, and it's not all hats. All that just seems to be what we're doing today. That's all right. It's fine. The link to the store is in the description. Now, I want to switch back over because I want to show you just how it ranked within the class and what his matrix looks like. Now, if you're not familiar with the matrix, this is a little bit different. This is not mock draftable, which is just raw scores, same as Raz. This is the actual applied mathematical algorithms that tell you what the functional strengths, minuses, whatever are on the field. And so you see his best score in here came out at 98.88 in the deep range. This kid can turn and run. Yeah. And that's the difference. I'm going to show you Khalef Hailassie here in a second. That's the difference in terms of like the physical makeup. He's great on the explosive range. That's the area between 20 yards and 40 yards as well. Then you get into the short area quickness, which is a great score as well. It's not quite as elite as those two deep metrics are. And then you get into the explosion, meaning the leaping ability and the first step, as well as the overall. He came out 16 overall in the matrix for the corners, and that is solid. That's better than Watson. It's better than Williams in their respective classes, and it's right up there behind some of the guys that are on rosters contributing across the league. So that's what he looks like. I don't see any problem with that game. Does anything worry about you in the initial, say, 5 yards of his defense?
It's just the, are you going to get stopped because you're trying to press somebody and you miss your hands? Like, if he gets caught with his feet forward, he's going to get blown by. But he has the recovery speed, like you said, to catch back up. It's the more of the problem is if a quarterback sees that and he sees those feet inching forward, guess where the ball's going? It's going over his head, most likely. So that's getting to understand the feel for the position in the first 5 yards is the big area for him if he wants to end up being a starter at some point. But right now, he's in a good spot because he's got 2 guys in front of him that had to do it last year with Williams and Watson, and they did it very well. But this is just going to be another guy to add to that cupboard that you can continue to churn out hopeful players to start, and then you can kind of throw Nick Joneses, the Trent McDuffies of the world, the possible Darius Needs in the slot if you have to, and just kind of live that way.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Phil, we appreciate you, buddy.
You are
well, and we're glad that you're here. Guys, we will take some of your questions. I know you're in there. If you want to super chat, that's the best way to get a question tonight because we're just trying to go through the information, but we will take some questions here in a bit. Pointing out here, unlike Hailassie, who we're going to see in a second on this same kind of his profile, it's the hawk rate that stands out for Darius Rush. He gets his hands on passes, whether it's PBUs and interceptions. That's what the hawk rate really represents versus the total times you're targeted. Whereas Eagle metric is partially that, but it's also how you come downhill and make tackles for loss, how you attack screens, how you get forced fumbles, the other things that you can contribute even as a corner that go to the overall defensive grade. That's a little bit lower there. So he really is good with the ball in the air, and that's what we're looking for. 17th in missed tackles in this class. That can improve. That certainly is part of the evaluation as well. But let me flip over because I do want to share one of our longtime viewers, and Whiskey Bravo asked the question. And Whiskey, thanks for the contribution and your super chat. We appreciate you. Why waive Hailassie just to bring in Rush? Do the draft matrix comparison. That's exactly what I'm doing for you, buddy. Is it a better fit, or is there hope to bring Hailassie back? Hailassie also got picked up.
Yeah.
He is claimed he is on a 53 in this league. So for those of you thought I was a little bit crazy for thinking the guy could make a roster, well, he did. It just wasn't the Chiefs. But hey, that's okay. So Whiskey, I'm gonna hide your comment just for a minute, just so we can get the full screen. But I thank you, and I will come back to you momentarily because if we switch over to Hailassie, what you get to see is the opposite, what his profile looks like. And so here, if I just go back and forth, you can see the difference of the spider graph here and how the overall athletic matrix is drastically lower. You can see it's only a 93 versus a 95.5 plus. That's a significant difference in this metric. And you can also see how the explosiveness is also the weakest of his grades at 40th within this class. That's why he's an instinctual player. That's why he was better playing off. And that's why he was able to make some of those plays because he had to come from depth. Now, his short area quickness is actually a little bit better than Rush's. If we go back, Rush was at 16. Hailassie was at 6. But that's the only athletic matrix measurement where he was actually better than Rush. In the production, what you see is the yards per completion is in the top 10 in this class for Hailassie. Obviously, that was not the case for Rush, but the hawk rate was. We come back to Hailassie, and his was the eagle rate. What that tells you is that he played better closer to the line of scrimmage. He's able to attack screens, come downhill, and make forced fumbles, a little bit better than what Rush was. Rush is more of a cover guy, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. Dan, are you?
I am, and I think that's really what this team does. They want to play a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, and they want to turn and run with bigger receivers downfield. And I just want to address this really quickly because it can be a little confusing sometimes. So if you just go to his statistics, he had 3 total interceptions in college. He had 3 total. And then you look at his pass breakups, and he had 15 in 2 years. That's what this is. It's not so much that he can't necessarily find the ball. He plays the ball in a receiver's hand well. He times, the swipes well. He can get there. He's because he has that recovery speed. He can kind of sit in that hip pocket, wait for the receiver to flash the hands, and slap at it, find the ball as it's coming this way. But when he's got to turn and look for it to intercept it, that's where he loses the football. It's the tracking aspect of playing corner that when I say he can't find the ball, it means he has trouble tracking it over his shoulder wherever he is. But he's very good at finding that catch point and breaking up passes that way. So that's just to kind of clear that up a little bit.
And I'll say this, if we put this clip back on as well, you guys will see that it is the short area. It's when it's close to him that he's able to read it. Let me see if I can get this to play again. And it's just that overhead in particular tracking that I agree with you, Dan, that's where the change is. But that's the great thing about the hawk rate is it takes into account both of them. Because if you get a PBU, no, it's not a takeaway. You don't give the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, but you keep that offense from moving forward, and that's a significant play. So that's why they're kind of combined there.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So yeah, just want to make sure we were able to clear that up. But yeah, he's going to be, it's more, again, it's a hopeful thing because he was cut for a reason. All right, he wasn't producing as what they thought because he was drafted. This wasn't a guy that they picked up like in the 7th or because they wanted to get out in front of priority free agents for that. This is the guy that they believed in, and the athletic ability that the Colts are really looking for. It's the same fundamental prospects that the Chiefs look for in that same sense, especially at corner. So when it doesn't work out for one guy that used to work here, it's going to hopefully work out for another one, because I think the one difference is that Spags is and has done a great job of developing these young guys. I think Joe Cullen has helped take some of the edge off of him having to focus more on the defensive line and defensive ends. He can kind of say, you go ahead and you do that. I think that's why BJ Thompson made this roster, because of the speed. And he was like, this is your guy. You're going to make it. You figure out how to bring him along. And Spags is like, I'm going to deal with the corners, because they have a really nice relationship right now, figuring that out and handling that. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I agree. And that's not to take anything away from Dave Merritt, because I know day to day, he's in the midst of it. Spags is just an old DB coach, so he's going to be in on it as well. I think the pair of them has actually really come together really nicely, and you've seen that going back 3-4 classes now, including with Darius and with all this drama about Chris Jones. I'm sure we'll talk about that here before we finish up tonight.
For sure.
That whole thing is shadowing the fact that L'Jarius Sneed has become an elite corner, and it's recognized around the league. He's going to get paid one way or the other. We got to see whether it's here or not. But also heard from Andy Reid and Brett Veach today. I can't remember who actually said it, because I think Andy wasn't televised, if I remember correctly. But there's a possibility L'Jarius plays in this first ball game.
Yeah.
So despite not having a preseason at all, and that also gives you an idea just about how much development has gone into this building and how far they've come. So, Whiskey, we appreciate you. Thanks for the support, buddy. We're going to go back to Steve. With a large number of wide receivers, will we see more 3 tight end sets turn into wide receiver formations? Honestly, if you split out Jody Fortson and you put Justin Ross, is there much of a difference?
Not a ton, except the fact that defenses aren't going to bring out your bigger packages for Justin Ross. That's the only difference, is that they will not do it, because they're not afraid of Justin Ross coming in line and blocking at all. Like, they're not necessarily worried about that. So while I understand, I actually think that there's still a possibility that Bushman gets elevated, and these guys are going to come up, come down, and with this roster, it's still not done yet. I promise you, it's not done yet. They've got some other things they're going to have to do to alter it going forward, but they still predominantly play 11 personnel. Like, that's prominent. Mostly what they do is 3 receiver sets. So I do think that makes it makes a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, I have to say. But I personally feel like 13 might have to wait for a while. You got to let Bushman develop a little bit. Clearly, you haven't worked it out. Vokalek is out there. And if you guys didn't see Travis Vokalek, he was playing for the Ravens in the preseason. He was let go as well. I haven't seen him sign yet, but I've been recording here for the last 2 hours, so maybe I missed something. I think he's also another pickup that could work out in this town eventually, because he has the skill set they usually look for. So keep an eye out for that. He's the kid out of Nebraska with the long blonde hair, if you guys remember those games. So it may not be over, is our whole point here. 13 might still be enough to get something done. Let's see. Greg, is the Shane experiment over? Shockingly to me, to hear Brett Veach say it sounds like it is.
It's done. I think that Oladokin came in and they showed a little bit of arm, a little bit of flair they have Gabbert. They're like, we've tried to make it work with Shane. Maybe he could find somewhere else, because I think we're pretty comfortable with the quarterback room that we have. That's how I feel about it.
Well, and unfortunately, the writing was on the wall. I should have stuck to my guns. You guys want to write down every time I make a mistake. This is one of those years. I should have stuck to my guns. The 2 quarterbacks was all they wanted, all they needed. But I will say this. From what I understand through some of my folks around the league, is that they were shopping Shane Buechele as a trade candidate pretty dang hard, and there were multiple people interested. So I don't know what that means, and just because a person's interest doesn't necessarily mean that a team is, but I do believe there was some interest. I haven't seen his signing yet either, but I'm guessing that's going to happen. So,
I think so too. I mean, he looked pretty good this preseason. He's been under Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid for the last 3 years. Like I feel like someone's going to be like, yeah, let's give it a shot.
I have to agree. In other quarterback news, Bailey Zappi did not get claimed and went right back to the Patriots. Exactly what Bill Belichick was hoping to happen. I personally was not, but that's just me. We're going to see what happens when when Matt gets hurt, but that's a different one. Could be a nice spot for Shane Buechele, to tell you the truth, is in New England, because I think they're going to need some more help. Night Hunter, over under that CJ plays before week 8. Where are you at today, Dan?
So after the news that we got, I saw the Brett Veach interview. He hit a smile in there. There was absolutely a smile in there. And then Chris Jones, who has been kind of off social media the past week plus, has a new Instagram post. I am feeling much more confident he plays before week 8. Like, I think they're going to try to get something done in the next 48 hours, personally. Just the fact that they haven't moved any – I mean, they don't have to move any money around right now because his contract doesn't count against the cap. According to the report made by Matt Derrick, it's not on the books yet. But when and if that happens, it's going to bring in its own natural cap relief as well. So they don't have to make any move because they're set right now. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be way before week 8. I'm starting to get even more confident that it happens before week 1.
Okay. I too am going to take the under, but I'm not so sure on week 1. So
yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm much more hopeful today than I was yesterday. I can tell you that much.
Okay, that is absolutely fair. And for those of you who haven't seen it, kudos to Mark Gunnels, who grabbed it so we all could see it, because those of us who don't venture onto other platforms for social media,
not really.
Sometimes I get bit. I have to admit it. Let me see if I can pull it up here. So for those of you who haven't seen it, so you can. And where'd Mark go? There we go. No, that ain't it either. Here it is. Okay, so if I share the right screen.
Yeah, right. That'd be nice.
Bear with me for just a second. Yeah, and sometimes I do this right, and sometimes I just don't. It's a Wednesday night stream, so everybody's all right with this, right?
It's a new one, man. Woo, almost 600 you guys in here. That's fantastic. Give yourselves a round of applause, and then hit that like button while you're at it.
Yeah, I love that. Well done. So, I mean, minimalistic to say the least. Like you said, he hasn't been on social media where he's been ripping it up for a while. Just this is the only post. Just this, contemplating in a Chiefs uniform. I can live with that. It's a whole lot better than, I can afford it. I can say
or the whole Michael Bay thing where he quit on a team or whatever. Like, it's so much better than that.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna go there. So moving on. Nick, thank you for your support, buddy. Appreciate the super chat. What's the upside of Neil Farrell? I had him as a guy that could play anywhere from 3 to 1. What did you think?
I think he's a much more natural 0 to 1 guy. I don't want him playing 3. I know he has a quick first step, but he's not by any means a natural pass rusher. He's much more of a dirty work defensive tackle. I'm going to take up some doubles for some blocks for you guys in the back. And honestly, the Chiefs kind of need that. They need a lot of that, especially if they had to kind of beef up their defense and kind of tell Chris, hey, we're getting ready. We're going to get ready for the season. And at the end of the day, there's no guarantee that Derek Nottie is going to play up to the level that he played at 2 years ago. There's no guarantee that, their new defensive tackle, the name who we've talked about for the last 3 months, is now escaping me. And I can't think of his name.
Who, Keandre Coburn?
Keandre Coburn. There's no guarantee he comes in and he's just a double stuff guy. He can eat blocks. There's one guy that at least we know can do that.
Was that an Oreo reference?
It was an Oreo reference.
Oh my God. I was not ready for that one.
I don't think anyone was. I'm getting better at my just kind of throwing little things around and put them in conversations.
Oh, you're
3 years in the making, but we're doing it.
Hey, yeah. Hey, you just keep tooling away, buddy. I hate to tell you. Okay. For those of you that watch and listen to Locked On Chiefs, I promised you a tinfoil hat episode today on Locked On Chiefs, and I didn't deliver because the Rush thing overrode it. I'll give you guys here, because you're my people, I'll give you a little hint today of what I'm going to talk about on Locked On Chiefs either tomorrow or Monday. And I'm going to show you this while we do it, because Dan's going to laugh at me. If I add this to the stream, this is Neil Farrell. He is listed at 6'4" and 325.
Don't do it.
What?
I'm waiting. Just don't do it.
Okay. So tin foil. This is what this is. Tin foil. Yes, he can play 0. He can play 1. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. He can play a 5, in my opinion, as well.
Okay.
They kept BJ Thompson, who's a speed rusher on the outside. They now have Coburn, Farrell, if he comes around. And you got to expect you're going to get Chris back eventually. If not, you're going to trade for another guy that you could then change a little bit of body type on, right? These particular moves, the addition of Drew Tranquil, the keeping of Cam Jones. I love Cam Jones. I might be the only one in Kansas City who loved him this much. I'm surprised, right? It surprised me. All those things lean to a more athletic second level and a beefier first level. This sounds like additions for Joe Cullen to me. This sounds like the possibility of going to a 3-4 front in your base and going from there. And maybe that's the cost of doing business in a D-tackle world where you have to spend $30 million. I don't know. But if I'm getting out there crazy about what could happen, that seems more of a possibility today than it did last week.
Okay. I understand that. For me, when I looked at it and I'm like, Chris Jones might miss some time. And last year, the first time Chris Jones really decided he was going to stop the run, guess what? He was an elite defensive tackle at run stopping. Look at that. When he wants to do it, he can really do it.
Yeah,
right. It felt to me, if you don't have him, you don't have Charles Omenihu, who's going to be your run stoppers? You don't have any run stoppers, really. You have Coburn, who is a rookie. You now have Wharton, who's not a run stopper, and Nottie, who has not been the same that he was 2 years ago. To me, it felt like they were trying to help stop the run a little bit without Chris Jones, but also pave the way for next year when you have Derek Nottie and you have Kendra Coburn there. You have Farrell, assuming, again, he comes along. This is not a guy who's going to come in and be a starter. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're just hoping he can be a developmental guy, maybe get on the field every now and then, and Danny Shelton doesn't stop the run. He just doesn't do it. He doesn't offer you that. He's if I happen to get in between this gap and you happen to double team me, all right, good luck moving.
Let's make that happen.
That's kind of how it felt to me.
I love that. Hey, I happen to be here. Why don't both of you come at me?
He's not trying to do it on purpose. He's not doing it on purpose.
He's just standing around waiting for a sandwich. I get it. Nick, thank you. We appreciate your support, pal. We're going to answer a few more, folks. We were aiming at 30 minutes, but we're going to get where we get. Are the Chiefs moving away from roving CBs to more of a group of outside CBs with a couple of inside? In my personal opinion, Matt, that doesn't necessarily counteract. They could be the same thing in one backfield. What do you think, Dan?
I think that they just want to have as many outside guys as possible. This is kind of like how you see the Eagles throw bodies at the defensive end and their offensive line. Their corners right now are reverting to what that methodology is, in my opinion. With the way that offenses can throw the football, you want to have as many guys that can cover as possible, and upside as many guys as possible. And these 3 guys are actually all 4 plus L'Jarius Sneed are all athletic guys. They have some shortcomings in terms of what they do stylistically, but they're all athletes. They're all fast. Not all of them are big. Sorry, Trent, you're just not very big. It's okay. You're great. You're what you do. And then they're long. And so, to me, it just feels like they want to stock the cupboard as full as possible to have guys that can go in when they need to. And if you get injuries, all right, we're good to go.
Yeah, I like that plan. Specifically for the roving, in terms of traveling with number 1 outside receivers, I think what we can see is Watson and Williams, I think eventually can grow into that as well. I'm not sure we'll see it this year, but I do think that's on the table. And so having that ability to just flip-flop, that helps. Yeah. But you can also have guys that are kind of designated inside guys, whether that's Trent McDuffie, who we all know can play on the outside as well. I think Nick Jones is best inside. I was really happy to see them bring back Reese Taylor, who started to pop for me the last ball game and a half. So he's got some development to do, but I do think he can be a nickel in this league. And then obviously with Rush on the outside, I think you could see him move around as well. So it gives you a bit of variability in both directions. And Trent being and L'Jarius being the ultimate that can play inside or outside. I really want to see L'Jarius just be a boundary corner, and I'm good with that.
I get it.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you. Why is CH still on the roster, Phil, after a lackluster performance in the preseason and Perine balled out? I got nothing. Is it just emergency? Did you see something that I didn't see, Dan?
I've really beat the dead horse on this, guys. Like, I have been the consistent, hey, guess what? I'm sorry to tell you, week 1 of the preseason, Clyde's just the guy backing up Pacheco. He just is. Like, I know y'all don't want him here. There's nothing that you can do about it. Like, he's just there. And I think the fact of the matter is that they're going to use him in the passing game this year. Because he was ready to play as a wide receiver in the Super Bowl, that tells me he knows the offense. We can use him in the passing game. And honestly, if McKinnon, knock on wood, gets hurt, you expect Isaiah Pacheco to be your pass catching back or your pass blocking guy. Clyde's not great at it, but he's much better than Pacheco is, and he can chip. I don't know. You guys have watched Clyde. He's very good at chipping, which is the big thing they ask these running backs to do. McKinnon is asked to do more because he's great at it. He's a fantastic pass blocker. But if they don't need that, he's the guy on the roster that can do it. And that's what they want from him. And it's insurance.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, it's just was Perine enough to replace him? I don't think so. I don't even know if you do, Phil. But either way, they've got an investment in. They want to get the last ounces out. I can see that part of it too. Jerome, hope you're doing well. Anyone you thought would not get through waivers but made it through? Bichelle is probably the top one. I did not think you would get through the claims myself. I'm trying to look at what it is, and we'll give you the Chiefs released this. There are some changes, I think, or at least there's a misconception on it. I'm not sure, so let's go to that. And actually, I'll just pump it up all the way here. So obviously, the claim for Darius Rush up top. Boyado got back. I thought he had a shot at getting claimed.
Yeah.
Bushman, Christensen, Dickinson, Kennard, I thought played some decent reps. I thought teams that were more power-based might look to him, but clearly not. I don't know why I have Ryder organized here, other than I don't think he deserves this spot even. It's Reese Taylor. We talked about him before because I did like him, but I do think there was a report also. I think it was Nate that said that Keith Taylor was an option. I don't know if that's just a typo or a misunderstanding on the first name, but it doesn't look to be the same player. I'm just not sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know. What we got here? Wait, waived. Who's talking about waived? Where is he? Yeah, Prince is on the practice squad, guys. Don't worry about it. He's there.
He definitely
Prince made it. The only guy I think I was, kind of concerned. I don't really thought I didn't think anybody was going to be like claimed, but Ekaboido was the only guy that I thought might get claimed. Everyone else I was pretty confident would make it because contrary to popular belief, I don't believe Kennard played very well personally, and I think that measured up with the Chiefs cutting him after he made the 53 last year. So that's how I feel about that.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's a 5th round investment. You give it a shot. Danny Shelton did make it back. I thought his slim down physique might have gotten him another look, but I'm glad it didn't. So pretty happy with that. Available for being called up. Now there's 2 other guys. They signed a wide receiver and I believe a tight end, but they didn't make this list that we should hear more about, I believe. That was Washington and Prince, right? Another Prince, tight end named Garrett, I believe.
Garrett Prince. Yep. Big, fast tight end.
Yep. Quick. I didn't have much on him, to tell you the truth, but I thought he was a good athlete. So, hey, that sounds like the mix, right?
Exactly. That's all they need. Just bring in as many tight ends that are athletes that can run fast as you can and see what sticks.
Absolutely. All right. Off topic from preseason roster. Did you guys think that the undisputed clip of Bayless versus Johnson and Sherman about Mahomes versus Burrow, Bayless tried to fight them off, but Johnson Sherman buried him? I didn't see that. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I saw it. It's not surprising to me. Skip Bayless is always trying to do anything he can to downplay Patrick Mahomes' greatness. He always will, because that's his shtick. Like, that's what he's paid money to do. He's paid money to make people mad. And as much as that's why I blocked him on Twitter. I don't need to see it. I know he's being paid to do this. Like, they just bring people on to disagree with him because everybody watches it. They want to watch him get drugged. No one likes him. That's what the show is about.
That's his brand.
Exactly. His brand is that everybody hates him. So I just refuse to really watch that stuff. But yeah, we all know that Patrick Mahomes played against the best defense in the NFL that year in the Super Bowl. And it took him a little while, but guess what? When it broke, that whole thing came crashing down. There was no stopping him as soon as WASP happened. And Richard Sherman will forever be respectful of that fact because they did everything they could to shut him out. Guess what? It didn't matter. They figured it out.
I like it. So at this point, do you both think that Williams has the starting job at CB, or will they alternate like last year? Honestly, I'm not sure that L'Jarius doesn't play. There's an outside possibility. But say he does start, Dan, he can't go more than 15 or 20 snaps, right?
No, he'll be on a snap count for sure.
So I would think Josh was the guy that comes in.
Yeah, I think Williams is the first guy off the bench in their nickel packages.
Okay, fair enough. Now, if it were a start where you got to get after somebody in the very beginning, I do feel like Watson's more physical, and I do think that part of it might have been a different scenario. But if you're just replacing L'Jarius Sneed and you've got a game plan that revolves around his abilities, Joshua was clearly the better replacement for him. I think we both agree on that.
Yeah, I agree.
For clarification, folks, Generic Prince did make the practice squad. He is not on the 53, but he is a Chief. He made it through, so there will be that possibility. Let's see. I thought I had another one I was supposed to put up, but evidently not. So do you guys think Pop will go over 1,000 yards? I feel pretty confident about it.
I do too. I'm pretty sure I have almost penciled in that he'll go for 1,000 and 10 touchdowns. I think that's a walk in the park for this offense, considering what they don't want Patrick Mahomes to do.
The only way that doesn't happen is if they run early in the season enough to get teams out of too high. If they're going to get teams that bring down 7 in the box again, then I think they'll go back to dumping it over the top. And good Lord, we're all going to have a great time watching that. I just don't know if they're going to run enough volume to get there.
Yeah.
And I
see. So I see where the confusion is. The Chiefs now have 3 Prince names in their roster and practice squad. Yes, Prince Teguanogo is on the roster. Generic Prince is on the practice squad, and Garrett Prince is on the practice squad.
Yes.
I think we have figured that out.
Can I get a king anywhere? For the love of God.
Anywhere, please.
Come I like this one, Stevie. Everybody give Stevie a hand, and Gary's in the chat as well. Our mods are here. Ryder doesn't deserve a spot to be KC Wolf. That's funny.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, he held down the fort. He's got a Super Bowl ring. Give him KC Wolf at least. Come on.
Can he do a cartwheel? That's my question.
No.
I think our receiving core looks awesome. What do you guys think? I'm just glad they kept all of them.
I've got a tweet from like June, and I'm gonna bring it back out when the season rolls. This is the most talented front to back wide receiver core the Chiefs have had under Patrick Mahomes. It is. Period. End of story.
Moving on. Love that it's more varied as well.
Yeah,
and I won't disagree with you. And Avery says so because she's smiling. So
exactly.
Thank you, Matt, for clarifying that, and well done, Dan, because I forgot about those. All right. Last one. Let's see. Greg had a question. With all these wide receivers, will they still run sets with no tight ends? They certainly can. I actually enjoy the split backs with multiple wides. I kind of like that.
I like the pony personnel. Pony personnel, for those who don't know, is two running backs on the field at the same time. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. And I think you might see it more because there's no fullback on the roster. So that it makes me happy because you can do multiple things like we saw in the Super Bowl. But that was Sky Moore in the backfield and McKinnon in the quote unquote fullback role. I like things like that. That makes me happy. That's what the 49ers do with Deebo Samuel, putting, use check out wide and a running back in the slot. And it's fun.
Can I get a full backfield? Can I get three backs instead of Travis in that one diamond formation? Like that's what I'm looking for. I want the craziness. That's what I'm here for. Stevie, I missed your Tobe question. I'm sorry. And I went to check it real quick.
I think his question, and quote me if I'm wrong, Stevie, but it had to do with, are there any guys that you see made the roster that are specifically there for Dave Tobe?
Okay. Jack Cochran's one. I will tell you that. Let's take a look at the... she's not.
I think
okay.
she fell because she's messing around. I think
I do that too.
I think Jones made it because of Tobe.
Yeah, that's probably a good call. His speed definitely lines up there. Let's see who else is out here. As much as I'm sure Dave Tobe would like to use somebody like Justin Ross, he's there because he's a receiver. I am absolutely sure of
yes.
that. Let's see. Cochran, Jones. All these guys are going to play. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a little bit thin. Maybe Dave Tobe was just happy with the volume of two deep that he can actually use, and maybe he didn't need as many specialists.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
I'm okay with that, and that's kind of speaks to the depth of the team too. They've got guys that could realistically play all the way through the roster.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The kids are calling. Thank you, folks. We're going to go be dads for a bit. We appreciate you guys being here, especially for a Wednesday live. Enjoy your practice squad. There might be a couple more tweaks. We'll hit you here on Thursday and Friday a little bit as well. So thanks for being with us. We very much appreciate it. Like, sub, hit your bell. We'll talk to you next time.